and I'll answer any questions and try and answer them if I can.
Any questions for Mr. Shute from the library, from the council?
How often is the library, weeding out, so to speak, taking place?
I'm going to let Susan answer that. I will tell you, though, in our other libraries, it's very few of them seem to do it, maybe except here, very few of them seem to do it on a regular basis. It seems to be driven by need, and because it is a painful process, because you're taking things out of your collection that are, you're saying they might get used, but the numbers are showing they're not getting used, so you have to take them out. And I would say, Susan, you answer it. I'm not trying. I'm just basing it on my experience. They're all weeded collections, but sometimes we see them weeded on a 3-year to a 5-year cycle, not on an every-year cycle.
Should be every year.
But is that how it happens?
Right. We do it right after we've done the annual report, so that's in December, and we work on it usually through the month of February.
I see. I don't usually hear that.
What?
Well, we've had to.
Oh, that's the other issue.
We've just had to, and you know, so do you keep Shakespeare or not? Do you keep the classics or not? Just because somebody has decided not to read Where the Red Fern Grows, do you pitch it? And about the time you pitch it, there's a big. It never fails. Every time we pitch something, somebody wants it. But you also have to remember it's all been bought with taxpayer dollars. So it's very hard to just say, toss it, it doesn't mean anything anymore. But it sure did.
The thing is, with Selco, any number of books could be available within 2, maybe 3 days.
Well, you also have to remember with Selco, the word in there is cooperating. We have a contract with Selco that we will provide items other libraries need, but not items that other libraries have decided to cut their budget and not provide their customers. Our contract is to provide and meet our customer needs, and then whatever overflows to others. And the same is with the other libraries. We don't cut a budget and expect Lanesboro to pick up what we've decided to cut. Usually it's for rare items or something that, like maybe in a series somebody doesn't have. It's not to be used as collection enhancement or development.
I will tell you that we're just opening a library on Saturday in Prairie du Sac. The Culver family donated an existing building, and a new 20,000 square foot library is going in there with an addition. And they got phase 1 of phase 2. And one of the things that happened, they had to raise funds over the last 3 years, which was a challenge. And where I'm going with this, tied to your question, is one of the things at the circ desk that we're not seeing are all the bins that come in and move things back and forth. Just like Selco, is it called Selco? Is your one in southeast Minnesota. There's ones in central Wisconsin, and it is a big part of that library collection. Those numbers don't go into our circulation numbers. Those are numbers outside it. And usually they do play a big part in what goes on, but we really don't factor them in. And for us, one of the things that we have to deal with are all of these bins that this stuff comes in, the ones going back and the ones coming in. And when you look at the circ desk, you say, boy, how are they going to use that whole circ area? I would almost bet when we're done that that area won't look as clean as I have it laid out here, but these bins we have to circulate everywhere. But it is a big part of how the library works, and your system seems to work. The fact that the collection is weeded, remember I said that new libraries, we always add 2%? So for instance, when a new library opens, it's 40% bigger than it has to be. You can see why the collection doesn't get weeded, because they have all this room to fill it up. So for like 2 to year 12, it just sits there, and then they have to go through this big sort of purge to get it all out. To hear that it's done annually is probably a healthy thing, but, and frankly, it's probably a fact of life just because of the size. There's just not much else you can do. I will tell you that that library is also an urban library. It's a downtown library. It's also 2 stories, and they weren't thinking of a 2-story library when they did it. But it was a donation by a very generous family, and they decided to do it. It did need an extra staff person downstairs. They've accepted it, but I will tell you, a lot of time went into who was on what level, and their approach mirrors your approach in that the children's collection, the youth collection, AV, and the technology are on that main floor. And then downstairs, they did add some technology, additional technology downstairs. We could still add that with tablet arms on lounge chairs, but it's their distribution of the collection worked out much the same. One of the things was being able to see all the stairs, being able to see the elevator, and being able to see the collection was a really big deal. One of the things that I feel good about, and this is sort of a complete twist for me because we've looked at this and we haven't looked at this building as seriously as this. I'm not sure that I was convinced before I started that when we got done, we would have a library that made sense the way it was laid out. And I will tell you that this library, all 3,321 square feet on each floor, does make sense to me. I see the logic. I like how you come in, you see the technology, the people can help you. There's identities to the youth collection, the adult collection, although it's downstairs, you have windows downstairs. It seems to make sense. I don't feel like we forced it. I really think that the scheme from a library side, it's how your community feels about it, how the library works seems to be logical. And I can tell you, 2 weeks ago I wasn't sure I could say that. But as we got into it and started to lay it out, it just seemed to come together. And still give you a barrier-free library and get your whole collection in it. It comes at a cost.